I spent this year really figuring out the business model that worked for me as far as my company goes, right? Like I basically I changed course from trying to build a production capacity style company of like doing the same thing over and over for as many people as possible to a customer intimacy model.
Hey, welcome to a podcast where dreams meet determination and success is just around the corner. I'm your host, Suzanne Taylor-King, and I'm here to help you unlock the full potential of your business and your life. Welcome to Unlock Your Way with STK. Let's unlock your path to success together. Hello, everyone, and happy holidays. It's Suzanne Taylor-King here with Pablo Gonzalez of Be The Stage. How are you, my friend? This is going to be really fun to catch up with you.
STK, I'm great. Super pumped to, I feel like we haven't talked in forever. Like I'm super pumped to catch up on a podcast. Yeah, cool.
Yeah. Oh, well, I've been super busy and you are certainly super busy. Your podcast, your company, and then category thinker. So let's catch up. Where are you at and what's happening?
Oh man, what's happening? I would say, I spent this year really figuring out the business model that worked for me as far as my company goes, right? Like I basically I changed course from trying to build a production capacity style company of like doing the same thing over and over for as many people as possible to a customer intimacy model. Just like going really deep with like a handful of clients and then offering other like one-time things. And that's made me really happy, right? Like I think that my ideologies and my philosophies, there isn't one way to do it. And I'm really, it's great to have 3 companies that I get to essentially be some kind of like fractional chief evangelist / channel creation partnership thing and content strategist in to really pioneer how to do community in different things. And I'm having a blast doing it, and just finished like a Christmas party with my team where it was like super heart-filling moment of how well everybody is. So it's been a great journey. It's been a giant journey into like self-worth, honestly.
I love hearing you say this because I think what the world and communities and people who hire us need more than ever is really deep, not only connection, but just that level of service that is not an online course. Yeah. It's not a group coaching program per se, though you might get a group with it, right? You might get community with it. But it's really just more high touch and more heartfelt. And I love that you said that. I think that's what's missing in so much of the engagements that I see people spend $10,000, $20,000, $50,000 for, and they don't ever get to talk to the coach or the guide, or, they don't have a mentor in those relationships. And good job.
Thanks. I don't know in fact, I do know. I know it came from some kind of like lack of self-worth, but I never really valued just throwing advice at people as much as valuing, let me take this off of your hands. Right. So I never really tried building that other model. And what I see is there's a lot of folks in that model of course or coaching or whatnot. And if they wanted to just 5x their price, they could have way fewer clients and get really deep and, really test yourself, right? Like it's one thing to like, I think intelligent people can come up with frameworks and talk about them and share them and stuff like that. But it's another thing when you're in the arena applying it and shucking and jiving alongside multiple teams, you just get you get another level of data and opportunities to iterate and improve across multiple things that I think is really invaluable.
Yeah, I totally agree. I think one of the things I wanted to touch on in regards to that, how do you see that intersecting with community? Because, so many times when people hire somebody and it's, a high touch engagement, they don't get the community piece. How do you see that interacting?
Well, I see it in a couple of ways. Number one, and you know this, nobody builds a community without putting a lot of effort into the first year, right? Like there is no way to do that without the behind the scenes. Hey, buddy, I want you to interact with this. I think this is good for you, and connecting people, hand to hand combat style, which I think you do very, very well. So, it's a lot. It's a lot to ask a business leader who is into community, right? Like they have built a business because they wanted to solve a problem genuinely. They have taken the road less traveled by really investing into their team as opposed to just trying to like have an authoritarian regime under them. And the next step is to go this like community route with their clients. They have a lot going on, and it can be really overwhelming to get that piece started. So you just kind of need somebody that like lives to connect people to each other. That's on one side. As far as the offering goes, I find that it's always, I'm always trying to find a way to bring together the people that I'm working for, the people I'm working with, and anybody else that I think is thinking the same way, right? Like that thinking in a certain way and agreeing with each other and agree on fundamental principles of like power with essentially leadership.
Yeah.
And I think the social validation of it all is really, really important because the world will beat you down and try to tell you to go power over. But at the end of the day, I think it's pretty indisputable that long-term influence, long-term impact, the really, really big things we want to accomplish come from a power with model that becomes sustainable. And if you don't surround yourself with people that you're seeing them do it and seeing them get some wins when you're down, it's going to be really hard because this whole business game is as far as entrepreneurship goes, from my experience, is a game of short-term momentum. So like you're either getting these little wins that propel you to the next one, or when you're taking an L, you got to be surrounded by other people winning in order to be able to like get back on track and not like revert back to what most people do,
Yeah. Well, I think that's why it's so important to surround yourself with people who maybe are one step ahead of you or 5 steps ahead of you, because that keeps you moving forward. We've all been there, hanging around with somebody who's 10 steps behind you, and you feel like you're dragging them along. Yeah. It can't be like that because, it just doesn't work for forward momentum. So I love that. What do you see as the solution for someone who's busy, who wants to like be involved with community or wants to build a community? I know what I would say. Don't do it unless you have a lot of extra time. Have somebody help you with that. I talked to Ethan Butte a couple of weeks ago, and love that guy. And we really, I love how that chief evangelist role, I have my chief evangelists, who are out there talking about me in rooms I'm not in, and me about them. I talk about you all the time. I don't know how many
talk about you.
Go follow him. You got to, learn his content flywheel, and I love that aspect of the online space because it's deeper than influencer status, right?
Yeah.
It's, I followed you, I liked your content, got connected to you, and I don't know, there's something, I was a fan first and then learning from you. So what do you tell the entrepreneur who wants to do that? They want to be able to have people feel that way about them.
Yeah.
And they're not quite hitting the mark.
I think that community has become kind of a buzzword. Like communities become something that people hear and they're like, oh yeah, community, and it can easily be confused with audience. It can easily be confused with paid membership. At the end of the day, the atomic unit is relationships, right? So if you are an entrepreneur that echoes with this stuff, I would say start small, right? Like I think so Ethan Butte, for example, Ethan Butte isn't hosting a community per se. He doesn't have any paid program. He doesn't have some kind of Slack channel, but he cares about relationships, cares about community. And therefore, about once a quarter, he emails all the past guests of his Chief Evangelist podcast and is like, let's hop on a Zoom together to get to know each other. You know, I think that for him at, where he's at is a great investment of time that is a low lift and still allows him to become the watering hole of something that he really cares about. And I think we get too easy to conflate this idea of community with big Facebook group, mighty network thing where everybody's paying you $100 a month. There's all these like kind of like big signposts and features and outward signs of stuff that people have labeled community, but at the bottom, at the center of it, it's just like a healthy network of people that gather around you. And that can be 5 people or 4 people or 12 or 200 if you're doing it right. If you want to go the 200 route and build something that is a business, right? Like it can be, community can be the revenue model itself. It can be the product. It can be the client acquisition tool. It can be a bunch of things. If you're going to do that, you gotta build out the right amount of resources, whether it's time or, a team and investment, and plan it like you would a business or any other thing if you're going to formalize something like that. But the short answer is start small and lean into the relationships that you have and lean into just being the guy that knows a guy around some kind of topic and go from there.
Yeah, agreed. And I've tried it numerous different ways over the years. And I think one of the things I've realized in the last year was that smaller might be better for a coach or a consultant or even a marketing agency service provider, that being that go-giver, that super connector, that person who knows everyone and that people talk about because of the way they feel when they're with you, not because of what you sell them or what you offer them, how they feel when they're with you, I think has really moved the needle for my business. But I've had numerous clients who want to have that membership model and they think that that's community. And, I struggle with that. Of course, I do charge some people, for my group coaching, but that's not my community, right? That's a group coaching program. And I think the confusion for some people is they see giant influencers having a membership, $20 a month. Dan Coe has a $27 a month community and he's got, more than 3,000 people in there. And they see that and they do the math and they're like, oh, I want that. Not understanding that it's taken 10 years to get that many people, there's a lot of work involved to corralling that many people into a low end membership.
Yeah. And keeping them and making it worth their while, right? Like this is not a job for mercenaries, like it's very much a missionary mindset thing. Like you really got to care about something and you really got to care about, making the what's in it for me very, very obvious to the people that you are, bringing into the space. And to do that for a bunch of people is really freaking difficult. So like, it's not, there's easier ways to make money.
As a revenue, model, I always discourage against it. If you're looking to have 300, 3,000, 30,000 people in a membership, but you're only connected to 100 people and your email list, the numbers don't add up. So I think the important thing is to go back to that go-giver mindset, be a super connector, be curious, be interested in other people, like, hey, Pablo, when's the last time you were on your surfboard? And actually care that you're not at home right now. You were visiting family. I know that, because you said it, but I also would have asked because you have a different background. Like, actually be interested. And you can only do that with, I forget what they say, about 100 people that you can actually remember the face, the details, the business.
Yeah.
Say a little bit about that. How do you keep track mentally of the people? And then what would you say to somebody that doesn't have that to get started?
Yeah, I got you. You said something that I think is right on the money. It's like how you make people feel when you're in front of them goes a long way. And I am really fortunate that whatever nature, nurture combination that I have inside of me has made me somebody that genuinely falls in love with everybody that I meet, kind of thing. And, to a detrimental level, if I don't, I've had to learn boundaries and stuff like that. Right. So I don't know that my best piece of advice, because I'm not someone that learned this as it's something intuitive to me that I've owned much more so than something that I've had to be taught. But that idea, making sure that you're making the person in front of you feel like they are the most important person in the room. If you lean into that, it makes up for a lot. Right? Like I don't know how many people I have in my network, and I don't know how many people that I know their name, their face, but I don't know their name. And I'll forget a name or whatever, but I'm never, as long as you are genuine about what you're doing, right? Like vulnerability connects. Yeah. And so it's like, as long as you're being vulnerable and you are genuinely interested in people, and you lean into that moment, that goes a long way, right? Like I have a terrible CRM. Like my CRM game is non-existent, right? Like I am
on
not
my list for 2024.
Yeah. I'm not the person that will wish you a happy birthday in Facebook, because I just think it's a freaking commodity. But I am the person that the moment that I see you, my face lights up with genuine excitement, and people will feel that, right? So like, people, it's easy to tap back into that moment. So I don't know what the outer limits of it is, right? Like I think it's concentric circles of kind of how much you can really end up caring and doing and doing for people. But the main thing is what you said. It's making that person being the feeling of, the energy that you transfer to people when you are in front of them is really the name of the game, and the genuine care about their well-being and what their priorities are and what they want to do.
Yeah. I just want to touch on what you said about you didn't know whether it was nature or nurture. And, you didn't really, you had to tweak those skills a little bit. Same. But I will say, when I really got intentional about it was after somebody said, "This is how you make me feel." When I talk to you, I feel like I'm the only person in the world that you treat like that. I was like, really? And instantly I knew it was from being a dental hygienist for 20 years. Because of that one-on-one over and over and over and over again, right? And then getting intentional about it was just the research part. Like, who am I talking to today? Who do I need to connect with? How do I need to make them feel? What do they need? And I think you do this so naturally and so well. I've noticed being in groups with you that you know how to work, a group of people and make every person that's there feel seen and heard and valued. Where did that skill come from?
Some combination of like ADHD and moving around a lot as a kid, right? Like I like the plural conversation, and for whatever reason, I don't know. Again, I think I have a natural tendency towards it.
Yeah.
Honing it in and understanding it first started as a want to belong, right? From moving around like 3 different continents before I was 10 to then a want to get my way and being like a manipulative little kid that could, I wanted to get my stuff, right?
Are you an only child by any chance? Are you an only child?
No, I'm the youngest.
Okay.
Yeah, I'm the youngest. And then in my early 30s, the understanding of how to do it in a way that is really sustainable, right? And when I say being sustainable, I mean this like approach of just like taking your superpower and using it to serve as opposed to just using it to serve yourself.
Yeah.
Came from the period in my early 30s when I got really involved in charities and stuff like that. And I got on the board of multiple charities, and at some point I realized that the funny guy shtick wasn't really working when I was in a lunch with like the director of a bank and like the superintendent of schools. And I had to look around and think, oh no, the way that you add relationships is you got to add value to people. You can't just siphon value from folks. You got to find a way to add value. And the easiest way to do that is to acknowledge them and listen and make them feel important. And then eventually, started just deconstructing stuff from what works from like radio zany AM radio of like, hey, okay, it's Suzanne from New Jersey. It's good to see you, Suzanne. Right? Like whatever you can do, right? Like giving people nicknames, giving people, some kind of like that crowd work level has been a lot of reps and a lot of deconstructing everything that I've seen work from college fraternity rush when you're literally just having to like talk to 20 dudes and pick them up, right? So they want to be part of my fraternity to like deconstructing what I see works great on radio shows that work really, really well, right? Like from the Howard Stern show to the Dan Le Batard show to all these different ones that I've developed a whole ecosystem. I've realized that they make other people stars. It's not just one host. So it's like this idea of if I can share a piece of the stage with you, then I am validating you. And whether that stage is I'm the one that's telling the story, but I refer to you as the inside joke that contributed to the story, or I'm quite literally on a stage and I am referencing a person that I spoke to beforehand about what they're struggling with and contextualizing it to the presentation I'm giving. That stuff gets people to really perk up and be like, oh my God, this person really sees me. And, if you are talking about, others' priorities and the things that they're trying to get, in context to like what's in it for them, they are more likely to listen to you than if you were talking about what you're trying to do.
Yeah. I couldn't agree anymore. I love just how you said that, how you explained it, and the fact that you're more intentional now about it, that, we're getting a little older. I'm a little older than you, but that fact that you realize that it really is the relationship that matters, and, helping someone else get what they want. One of the reasons I wanted to do community in the first place, why I wanted to have a podcast, why I wanted to, help more people, didn't really relate to, I didn't think consciously, like, how am I going to make more money from that? It was, how am I going to help more people? How am I going to connect more people? Yeah. And I think, well, I'd love to know how that relates to, I think it relates to building a business, building a brand, building a reputation of being that category of one person, because there's not many people who actually lean into this, what we're talking about.
Yeah. And I think where you are, the category of one thing, I think ties back to the idea that everybody is valuable, right? Like this, like the quote from Ralph Waldo Emerson, in my travels, every man I meet is in some way my superior, and in that I can learn from them, right? So we each bring a different, unique skill set to the table in some way. And if you can unlock that, then, bringing people together, the sum is greater than the parts, right? As far as the category language, right? Like category design, the idea that evangelizing a problem is much more influential than like evangelizing your brand or evangelizing your solution or evangelizing whatever is something that intuitively has worked for me throughout my life. So when I read Play Bigger and I, the first read through, I was just like, this is it. Like these people are essentially validating all these things. I could go back to my late 20s when I started my green building consulting practice. And I remember the reaction I would get from people when I'd walk into a networking room and say, man, I'm really worried that Miami is going to be the sacrificial lamb of sea level rise for the first world cities. And somebody's got to do something about it. So I'm doing this green building consulting thing because it does it this way and this way and this way. How well that worked for me and how quickly I got to like a top 20 under 40 magazine, like list and whatever was not normal. And, like as opposed to if I would have just walked into every single room and said, hey, I'm Pablo, I'm a green building consultant. Know anybody that needs green building consulting services? It just hits completely different.
Well, nobody knows what that is.
Correct. Yeah.
Right. Unless they're maybe in construction or in that field. So nobody knew how to introduce you if you said that. Nobody knew how to connect you or what was important to you. So it's really, I think that's number one. Good point.
Yeah. And Lockheed says this thing, right? When he talks about, if you talk about your solution, people think that you want something from them. If you talk about people's problems, people think that you want to help them.
Yeah.
And I had a big aha moment talking to Chris Catania, who's writing this book called the Community Driven Company, right? Or Community First Company. And if you think about the levers of influence, right? Like if you think about Cialdini's book, The 7 Levers of Influence, they each have like power over and power with dynamics. So like authority and like those types of things, lever of influence, but the idea of reciprocity, right? Like the law of reciprocity is a big, big lever of influence. The law of liking is a big, big lever of influence. And if you sit there and you look at and you split the levers of influence in two, there's like a dark side and a light side. Like one is like the power over stuff and one is the power with stuff. And I don't know anybody that I feel like the most intelligent people look at those things and are able to see through it and think, okay, this power over stuff has a shelf life. Like at some point it will limit itself to something. Whereas this power with stuff, if you are employing these levers this way, you can have a much more exponential outcome that can sustain itself longer, like beyond your abilities, beyond your own power. And to me, that's what I'm interested in, right? Like I'm just more interested in going for the thing that if it works, because building a business is hard, right? Life is hard. So if you're gonna go for something, go for the thing that has the highest upside. And to me, this style of relationship building, leadership, and go to market motions have much more upside. Word of mouth has much more upside than Facebook ads.
Yeah.
Like this. Well,
I love that discernment of the dark and the light side. That, anything, I studied NLP for numerous years, that can have a very, very, you could use it to manipulate. You can use anything to manipulate, you can use a Facebook ad to manipulate, you can use anything for the dark side. But I think that discernment of influence being something good that you can leverage, and it could be a good thing to have people be influenced by you.
Totally.
Just like we like to influence our children, or, to good grades, good behavior, all of those things. It's very similar in business. And I think you do such a good job of really modeling that as an example for people. People that hang out with you understand that example. Being part of category thinkers, I notice everyone I've met and connected with within that ecosystem is just stellar people. And they feel the same way about other people, and they're curious. What are you doing? How are you doing it? What made you decide to do it that way? Mm-hmm. And I've never been around a group of people like that before.
Yeah, curiosity and abundance are a wonderful combination of of characteristics. Yeah. What brought you to that, STK? Like, what brings you to that idea of category design and community? Like, where does it come from you?
I'm really not sure, except I was an only child, and I can go back to high school where I wasn't really part of any, in the 80s, there was very distinct groups of people in high school. There was the punkers and the potheads and the stoners and the metalheads and the, kids who got all Fs, and then the kids who got all A's, and the kids.
John Hughes movies.
Yeah. Absolutely. 100%.
Yeah.
And I floated between the communities in high school and was class secretary and just very involved in like planning and getting people together, but not in a cheerleadery kind of way, in like a you need to know each other type of way. And I don't know where I always gravitated towards the new person in school, to make them feel welcome and seen and heard and all the things. And so when I first started my first business in the early 90s, having a community around that business involved travel. And it was, hey, let's go snowboarding at this really cool place. Oh, how do we do that? Well, I'll organize it. I'll pull it together. Mm-hmm. And it just became a thing. Now, there was no internet. There was no social media back then. So really showing my age on that one. But community's still the same. Influence other people to getting them to do what you want to do, but really it's what they want to do. And just, I don't know, it was magical for me. And I just thought when I became a coach about 15 years ago, I had the choice of starting my business right off the bat. I had some money. So starting it off with Facebook ads and, the funnel and all the things. I didn't quite know as much as I do now about all that stuff. So it was very much about trusting other people to tell me what I needed. And I remember the first ad that went out, and there was all these messages involved, and I hated it. I was like, I don't even know these people. I don't know what they need. And I was a health coach. So it was like, I don't know what they need. I don't know them as a person. How can I possibly just sell them this $97 thing? And I hated it. And I just decided that I was going to lean into doing it my way. And it was a much slower growth, but it felt much more like me.
Yeah. It's a great story. Like what I hear in that story is some of the, innateness in there was already there. And then the moment you felt it, right? Like it's that to me is another through point I see with people that are all in on this. It's like when you feel the value of community, it feels like such a extraordinary value that it's hard to ignore it as a tactical advantage. Right? Like If relationships are, we just talked about it. You network, it's based on value, providing value to others. And the moment that you've either stepped into something that you're like, wow, this is more valuable than anything ever, and you're an ambitious person, I don't know how you can't think, I wanna be able to do this for others and with others and to serve, something that I care about. Right? Like I hear that all the time. I think that's a great story.
Yeah, I think there was a light bulb moment sometime in a coaching program, a business coaching program, or in the early days, and it was a Tony Robbins mastery program, and we were on Skype at the time, and I had to put in the chat what I used to do for a living, and there was a moment where somebody said, "Who was the dental hygienist? You don't ever have to worry about how to connect with people or how to meet people. Just do that."
Yeah.
And I thought, oh,
yeah,
I'm not missing something. Yeah. I can just lean into what I've been doing for the last 20 years. Meet people, make them feel comfortable, have them feel safe, and have them trust me. Oh, cool. Okay. And that goes back to a self-worth thing. What you said in the beginning was that you have to value the skills and the traits you bring to the table. And in that moment, I was like, oh, I already have that. I don't have to go learn that or go manipulate that.
Yeah.
So I don't know. I think that's part of my category design. Right? When I thought about my talent stack and my zone of genius, that went on the list. But it was because I spent so much time in that space, in years prior. So I think that's really important to look at. What is your talent stack? What is your natural personality strengths? I worked with a coach a couple years ago, 2 years ago, and we did 7 different assessments on me. And then I sat down with a certified coach in each of those assessments all at one time. Amazing.
What'd you learn?
Well, a lot of things that I assumed, but then the reasons why I was doing the things I was doing, that entrepreneurship is lonely.
Yep.
We're home. Even when I was in an office, it was still lonely. I was sitting in the room by myself 90% of the time. And I think we need that sense of like minds around us. So that's one of my whys.
Yeah.
Also that there's a little bit of a rebel in there who wants to challenge the status quo and make it different for other people. So if I'm going to have it be different for me, I want it different for everybody else too. I see that in you.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, I see a lot of your story and I echo with a lot of the feelings, the moments, right? Like the idea of like floating between circles and never like really fitting into a clique, even though welcomed by all.
Yeah.
I think that's all real. The other thing that I'm hearing a lot is the sense of identity around it, right? Like I've never, that had never really clicked for me until I have this like group, this like accountabilities group, right? Like this like men's accountability group that we just kind of started organically. And in our last retreat, we were talking about this idea of like how identity precedes behavior change. And that never, I read James Clear's book and I've heard that before, but it never hit me until I was giving somebody some advice. Like they were like basically poo-pooing everything that they had done. This guy was a healthcare professional with a side business in real estate. And at some point decided to just be like, fuck it, I'm done being a nurse practitioner. I'm just going to go all in on real estate. And he basically was like discounting the enormity of like his accomplishment in doing that and being able to make a living off of it already, and it brought me back to earlier this year when I had, I was in the middle of, post my last partnership, I was in the middle of like trying to figure out what what the vision of my company was going to be, right? Like, what is it that I wanted to build now? And I was talking to one of my clients and he's just like, dude, you are, and I'm like, yeah, I'm just trying to figure out how to be an entrepreneur, and he's like, dude, you are an entrepreneur, right? Like, I don't think you realize this, but there's so many people that are in partnerships, stay for too long. They know that it's not working for either of you, but they both just choose that road of comfort as opposed to taking the hard decision and like moving forward as quickly as possible. And at that point, when he validated me like that, when he was just like, you've done the hard part. Like when you convinced me to like pay you money so you could like get out of this thing and pre-buy in on this and blah, blah, like you've done the hard part.
Wow.
And at that point, ever since then, I was like, oh shit, I am an entrepreneur, right? Like I do know how to make hard decisions. I do know when my back's against the wall, I come out with it. I know how to keep cool under pressure, whatever. And it's been so much easier for me to do it now going forward, now that I identify with it.
Nice.
Right? So like that validation is huge. So to your point, being surrounded by other people that can see that in you and can help you realize that this thing that you're struggling with, you are the type of person that has already like done better than you think in this. And you can continue to be that kind of person as opposed to you need to become something else.
Right.
I think is a really, really big thing. And for me personally, just how I've started implementing this is like when I'm struggling, right? Like when I'm having a bad week, I will sit down. I like to journal. I like to like just put stuff out there, and I really, I lean really into it when I'm struggling. What I've started doing is I'll look for examples of behaviors that I have displayed that would allow me to like overcome this thing that is holding me back right now. And I'll journal about those. And then I'll be like, I am the type of person that has overcome this type of problem in these kinds of ways. And I've already done this. And it kicks me right back into like, oh no, fuck this. I got it.
Yeah. It's
so
like remembering who you are and what you've accomplished in the past.
Yeah. So like to bring it back full circle, like how do you get people that are into community, like stick to it? Maybe the idea is go back to, hey, you saw how powerful that snowboard group was, right? Like, how sustainable that is, how much better that makes everything in a business if you can unlock that. So you can, if you're struggling getting your community off the ground, you can be sitting there trying to be like, well, okay, so maybe I turn the Facebook ads back on or I invest in something else or this or that. Or you can just remember that you've done this before, that the results once you do this, and that gives you the wherewithal to like stick to it, take a step back, analyze and move forward,
Yeah. It's totally that remembering. I remember I was working on planning a retreat for next year. And I thought, oh, I don't know. There was a moment where I was like, ugh. And then I remembered a group of 10 people that I took to Innsbruck, Austria, and sitting in this Austrian pub after snowboarding all day, having, a giant beer, and everybody just looking at me and saying, thank you so much. This is freaking amazing. And I didn't do anything except have the idea. And I thought, ooh, ideas. I got tons of them. Yeah. Let's go. Like, remember that's what draws people to me. Awesome.
Love it.
And journaling does it for me too. I have a win journal. I don't know if you've ever explored having a win journal when you do something really, really kick-ass and really awesome, and somebody says something great about you, or you get a, awesome testimonial, or I put it in. I just put a line item. And one of my favorite authors of all time responded to me. And I thought, all right, this is cool. I'm going to put this in the win journal. Like, just the fact that I reached out, I asked a bold question, and I got a response. I don't even care if it's from his assistant. I don't even care. I'm still just as happy, right?
So it's a win journal. You only write these wins, like it only has all these like moments. That's epic. That's cool.
Yeah. And it goes back. It's old. I probably started it 2005.
That's awesome. Do you ever like sit there and thumb through it?
Uh-huh. When I'm feeling crappy about myself.
Awesome.
Yeah. And, my mentor says, she's an energy medicine doctor. She says that by reading your own handwriting, say awesome things about yourself, it puts a part of your brain in a different frame of mind or a different energy. And I've totally found it to be true that, if somebody says something negative to me, very sensitive, I don't appear it, but very sensitive. And if somebody says something negative to me that hurts my feelings, that could just be a whole day of things being not going well for me. It's like a spiral effect. And to get out of that spiral, I need to remember who I am and what I'm doing. What am I doing this for? And it really helps get me back into that place.
I like it. It's awesome.
Yeah.
It's cool.
All right. One last question. How has your business shifted since you are more passionate about what you're doing? You're a multi-potentialite. You like variety. You like different things. How's your business shifted because of this?
I mean, the obvious answer is that my recurring revenue per month has gone up and my recurring costs have gone down and I've become way more profitable.
Woohoo!
Yeah. I would say that. And I guess there's a ton of decision-making fatigue is so real. And as a entrepreneur, as like the captain of the ship that could go anywhere, if you decide it, having real clarity is, it's so invaluable, right? Like I'm starting to realize that that's one of the big values of category design. Is that if you can really have a very clear point of view, it is just as important what you believe as what you don't believe. And knowing what you don't want to do and what you do want to do, really just sheds a lot of weight. It reduces decision-making time. It increases productivity, increases profitability. And that's the big thing. This like clarity of focus is, more valuable than gold for a business leader. So I would say that. I don't know if that's an answer to your question.
It is. I like the numbers, but I also like the happiness and the fulfillment that radiates from you because of the shifts that you've done in the last year or so. That's what's evident to me. The mustache, the smile, probably more time on your surfboard too. I would take it, right?
Yeah. Well, I wish it was more time on my surfboard. My health has not been great the second half of this year. Like I got like COVID and I've been struggling with like long COVID, and that's why I grew a mustache instead of surfing more. Just do what I can do.
Hey, but you got to do what you can.
But I definitely feel like I am peak happiness. Like the amount of time that I spent in joy is greater than ever before.
Nice. Yeah. Well, thank you so much for joining me today and having this conversation. Where can everybody get in touch with you? And how do we, if a listener is thinking that they're a category thinker, how do we sign up?
Yeah, categorythinkers.com. Super easy, free Slack community, over 600 other people that are super curious about category design and or super capable about category design. It's a very open place. The podcast is awesome. Like I'm like I was just telling you, it's been forever since I like the level of understanding around category design concepts for me by being part of this podcast and this community has just gone up bananas. So it's been awesome. So yeah, categorythinkers.com or hit me up on LinkedIn, Pablo Gonzalez.
Nice. Thank you so much, my friend.
Thanks, buddy.
Thank you for tuning in to another empowering episode of Unlock Your Way. I hope you found today's discussion inspiring and you're ready to take your business and personal growth to that next level. If you're feeling as fired up as I am and eager to unlock that full potential, I'm here to help you on your journey and provide that personalized guidance tailored to your unique goals and challenges. Simply book a one-on-one coaching call with me and we'll dive deep into your business aspirations and see how we could co-create a roadmap for your success. And whether you're striving to scale an enterprise or just getting started, I'm here to support you every step of the way. To schedule your coaching call, simply visit the website at unlockyourwaywithstk.com, click on the Book a Call button, and we'll turn your dreams into that reality. Subscribe and review on your favorite podcast platform and on YouTube. Plus, you can join over 800 entrepreneurs in the Idea Lab Facebook group. Let's make success as an entrepreneur happen together. Until next time, I'm STK. Keep dreaming big, stay focused, and most of all, have fun while you're doing it.